I'm here to answer another question from my Facebook group that I felt warranted a little bit of a video. Let's talk about dairy. So, first of all, I'm not against dairy. I think it's really good for some people and it's not so great for others. But the question in the group was actually, do children need to be drinking milk? And I just want to extend that to like, do any of us need dairy? Because it is part of the dietary guidelines in the United States. So, let's dig in. All right. So, first of all, why do cows make milk? Well, they make milk to feed their babies, right? Not to feed ours. We make milk to feed our babies. So, this picture kind of cracks me up because it does kind of hit home that, like, yeah, it's probably not something that's essential for all of us. Okay. So, this is a reaction showing how we would break down lactose, which is the sugar in milk, in the small intestine. So, if you are not lactose intolerant, then you produce this enzyme called lactase. Okay. And it's going to break this bond here, and then we can go ahead and deal with glucose and galactose. Okay. Otherwise, lactose is going to go down into the large intestine and get fermented, and then you have all these symptoms. So, what's funny about this is actually we are supposed to have the gene to make lactase turned off after infancy. So normally you'd be breastfed for, the first few years of your life, and then you would no longer have any need for lactase. You would no longer need to be because you would no longer be consuming dairy. However, there were some populations around the world that had started domesticating animals and they had started consuming their milk. And so during that time, some SNPs or single nucleotide polymorphisms developed that actually caused, so basically, this is a mutation in your gene that causes the gene for lactase to not get turned off. So it just stays on. So, really, what we should be calling this is lactase persistence. So, if you have that gene, instead of this being turned off, which it should be, you continue making it. Okay, and if you look at this map, you can see that a very large percentage of the world population is lactose intolerant. So if you just look at from a biological perspective and say, okay, 65 to 78% is the values I've seen of the world population is lactose intolerant. How could we say that that is a nutrient, that this is an essential food group that we have to have if such a large percentage of the population of the world can't consume it? So I think that's something to be considered. And again, I really think we should just call the people who can digest lactase persistent rather than calling these other people lactose intolerant. Okay, so as I mentioned, sorry, dairy's cut off right here, but in the US guidelines, we do recommend that you should be having dairy. This is what your plate should look like at each meal. They're still recommending 3 glasses of milk per day for an adult, which is kind of nuts. So, my concern is, not that dairy doesn't have vitamins and nutrients, because it does. Let's skip forward for a second. It does have things in it that are good for us. Mostly it's known for its calcium content, right? But it also contains things like saturated fats if you're having if you're having the full fat versions. It has extra calories. It may take away from you eating more of these good things for you. And I want to just compare that to the Canadian standards because a few years ago they actually removed dairy from their plate. I forget how they call it. And I love that they added in things like choose whole grains because it's not specific in the US guidelines. So I just bring this up because I think some countries like Canada are kind of catching up with the research and looking at the fact that maybe not everybody needs this in their diet. And maybe they've started ignoring some of the political part of this because, dairy is a big industry. So we have to consider that. Okay. Now, when I think about people like, okay, little people, our children, a lot of times it's hard for us to get them to eat a lot of different foods. And sometimes we just need to get the calories in them. We need to get the fats in them. We need to get the protein in them. So I know that my kids could probably just live off of carbohydrates, and it's hard to get them to eat protein or to get their fats, and fats are essential for brain health, especially developing brains. So I think that that is a little bit of a reason for you to consider having your children drink milk. Um, now, I would not say we should be drinking milk because if you don't, you're not going to have strong bones, because the research does not support that. Uh, I also want to note that there are some links to particular cancers that are associated with milk consumption, but there's also associations of a smaller chance of getting certain types of cancers by having milk or dairy. So the research is mixed. So I don't think there's like this some blanket statement for everyone. I think that um, sometimes, like especially with children or in malnourished areas and things like that, that we just need to get the calories in, we need to get the vitamins in, we need to get the macronutrients in. I just wanted to give you guys some examples of some other foods that contain calcium. Now, a few of these, like particularly spinach, it actually, you may have heard of oxalates before. They call it an anti-nutrient, and that's because oxalates will bind to the calcium that's in spinach, and so you actually can't absorb it. So, the way we mitigate this is just eating a wide variety of lots of different fruits and vegetables and nuts and things, so that we don't have to concentrate on, oh, is this am I going to be able to absorb it from this, or am I going to be able to absorb that vitamin from this or that mineral from that? Just eat a variety, eat lots of different foods, and it won't be a concern. And you can see here that when I'm looking at this list, gosh, there's not a lot of foods on here that my kids will eat. They will eat some of them. Uh, but that being said, my kids won't even drink milk. So if your kids aren't drinking milk, definitely don't panic. If they are drinking milk, that's okay, as long as it's not taking away from them consuming other foods and exploring other things. Okay, that's all I got for you today. Let me know if you have any questions.